I'm Arthur Smith, and I'm curator of the exhibition Chevalier de Bracelet, George Barbier and his illustrated works. Well, starting with case number 1, this is really the introduction to Barbier. So there are some portraits of him. There are some of his earliest artwork, illustrations that appeared in journals at that time. The notable thing in this case is the use of a different name than George Barbier. He actually used a pseudonym, Larry, on his earliest works. And the reason for that, we believe, is because he was illustrating some rather risque journals at the time. And we thought this was probably to save embarrassment to his family, who lived in a more provincial city of France as opposed to Paris. In case number 2, we really move into the start of a chronological arrangement of his major illustrated works, beginning with a 1912 album illustration, L'Amentaille. It's an album of fan designs for fans. The complete album is actually held at the Toronto Reference Library. The illustration we have of Barbier's fan design is actually on loan to us from the Toronto bookbinder Robert Wu, who we'll hear about a little bit more later. And moving through to case 3, once again highlighting 2 loans here from Robert Wu, prints, very limited edition, large prints. We have 2 that Robert has loaned us. They are absolutely exquisite, and they really stand out and are really a highlight of the exhibition. Case number 4 is really notable for its commissioned binding from Robert Wu of the volume Personnage de Comédie. It was part of the George Grant collection that came to the Fisher, and the Fisher Library commissioned Robert to do a special binding for it. It is absolutely exquisite and the highlight of the exhibition. It has been bound in white leather, and the scene that is portrayed with inlaid leather is of the Commedia dell'arte. Absolutely exquisite item. We follow through in case number 5, once again, a chronological order. We're into the 1920s at this point, and one of the features of this particular case is a print from the Bonnage du Jeu album. We have just the single print. It's just recently acquired by the Thomas Fisher. The full album does not reside in Canada, but we do have this one really exquisite item. This particular album actually has an interesting introduction by Barbier, where he really wants to, and he states this, he wants to really demonstrate high society of Paris at the time, with a bit of humor actually in it. And so this particular plate that the Fisher has acquired really demonstrates that. It's a dance scene from the 1920s. It really exemplifies the Roaring Twenties period. Moving on through the chronological order, we come to case number 6, and there we have another Robert Wu binding that he did for the Roman de la Mummy. It's on loan from the Royal Ontario Museum. Once again, another really exquisite binding, and more of his illustrated works appear in this particular case. Case 7 is devoted to some examples of his illustrations for journals of that period. He was very, very prolific in generating illustrations for not just fashion journals, but some risque journals of the period and other art journals of that particular era. So it's mostly Art Deco, and he was especially noted for his works in La Vie Parisienne, a somewhat risque journal. He had columns. He wrote columns under pseudonyms and wrote various social commentaries and critiques of the arts of the day. Moving to the final case on that particular floor, on the second floor, we have illustrations and examples of pochoir, which is the stenciling technique for coloring. In 1927, Barbier wrote an article that was published on pochoir, and in it he talks about particular artists that he admired. So we actually have some of these in our collections at the Royal Ontario Museum. So these are on exhibition in this particular case. And we also have several examples of recent publications that are catalogs of Barbier's work. Curiously, the two that exist are from Japan, where he apparently is a very popular, regarded very highly as an artist and illustrator. This case also features Jean Saudet's work as the top producer of pochoirs in France. And he actually wrote a treatise in 1925 on the technique with exquisite illustrations of pochoir. This very rare volume is held by the Toronto Public Library, and we have a section of that particular volume on display as well in this case.